Not the same one, not the right one. There we go. I always get something wrong on this damn thing. I guess we're live now. I was too busy looking at all the other settings, seeing if Damon left the last settings on here or whatever's going on this StreamYard software. It's set up, we all share it. And sometimes he has an intro and an outro and all this. And I have to look and see. I forgot to set up the script there. We can see some comments there now. We'll get it. We'll get it figured out here in a minute. Let me get these links shared and hopefully we'll get things improved. It's been a slow evening. Went out to eat with Mike Nichols and his fiance Michelle. Had a good dinner. And not feeling real good though. I don't know. It's not feeling real good today. Not one of my better days. I just started feeling bad right in the middle of dinner. I started just a wave comes over me, and every time I mention that, I start getting a little dizzy and nauseous and feeling bad. And people always ask me, "Have you ever your sugar checked?" And I'm like, "Yeah, my sugar's fine. They've checked it out. My blood pressure's fine. I don't know what the hell's wrong with me. Probably 'cause I ain't had nothing to drink." Yeah, I just start feeling bad. I don't know. It just comes out of nowhere. Doesn't have to be a stressful day. Perfectly normal, everyday day, and just all of a sudden, I just don't feel good. And it comes over a wave. It's just like hits you. We'll get through it though. Maybe after a drink or two and sitting there chatting make me feel a little better. It usually works. A lot of times it helps. So let me get these links shared. I got to open up all the groups first and then hope nobody texts me. A lot of times what'll happen is I'll open up, 10, 12 groups to share to and that I share to and somebody will send a message and that bogs it down because it opens up in every single tab I get. And it's like, oh no. Let's see now. Make sure I'm sharing the right link here. All right, that's it. Oh, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. I think I might have gotten last week's. I'm glad I looked at that before I posted it. Oh, I forgot to hit refresh. Yeah, that's a live link. That's much better. I saw a comment. I'm glad I saw that. I was getting ready to hit the post button. I saw a comment. I'm like, well, that looks like what JJ and I were talking about last week. That's not, man, it's bad. There we go. Now I'm hearing sound too, so I don't know where that's coming from. We'll get that figured out here in a minute. Let me get these links shared though. Probably come from one of these Facebook pages. All right, here we go. Here we go. I know I don't usually do it. I'm gonna put a big old at everyone on the Militia page. Just because I can. I think that's the way that. Yeah. Let everybody know we got something going on. Get these links out. And I got a message. It's going to be in every one of them. Hold on me. Get these shared. I should sit here, I'm sitting here just reading and being quiet. I probably should be talking. It's not like I don't have a podcast going on. I can't see comments yet. For those that just getting in here, just give me a minute. I got to post these links. And I'll get with y'all. I guess I should be sitting here all slack jawed reading. I try to read on the page, make sure that the page owners don't have a podcast going. If there is someone else's, I don't mind. But so, like Mark, if Mark has podcast, I don't post. So I always on each page, I try to look and see if him or Tracy or whoever's on each of their pages is doing anything live. I'll of course wait and let them get done with their thing and then post. So I'll scroll down a bit. See, there is another live going on right now. A little bit of interest from some of these other pages I post to, and getting a few people coming over from there and want to learn a little bit. That's always good. I'll try to post to those and beginner sites so we can attract beginners here. Because I know a lot of times they have a lot of questions that they want to ask, but they get so many different answers every time you do that. It's confusing for a lot of people. All right, so let's see. I think it's let me do something real quick here, Clint. Send that message, forward that on that you just sent me to somebody else. I'll talk to you about that later on. All right, let me scroll back and say howdy to everybody. What's going on, Hellbilly? You here on time tonight? Damn, it must be Wednesday. You're damn sure it's Saturday. What's going on, brother? What's up? Going on, Chris? Good to see you here, bro. Run scheduled for the first thing Thursday morning. Awesome. So how is it working off pretty well? Remember you Saturday you was telling me that I guess it's your first run. Awesome. What's going on, Henry? Good to see you, brother. Yeah, we love some rhyme in here now, don't we? Rhyme's pretty easy. It's simple like sugar wash. It's basically just adding molasses to your water and sweetening it up a little bit to get your gravity if you need to. So it's pretty easy to do. There are yeasts that are designed specifically for the rum to help it finish dry because there are some limit dextrins in molasses. Not all the sugars in there are fermentable. But if we add a little glucoamylase in with it, with our yeast, it will help convert those. Or I guess as you you know, heat the water up and add your molasses and kind of melt it in and dissolve it in. You can, when the temperature gets down to 100 or 90, not 190, but 90 or 100, I guess I should say. You can add that glucoamylase in about then before you do your yeast and let it get a little bit of a head start working on your limit dextrins, some of those oligosaccharides we talk about that are like 3 to 12 molecules long that the yeast just can't eat because they're a little bit too big for them. So we can break those down a little further. So some of those rum yeast will have that in it, so you don't have to add it separately. But if you're using a regular yeast, I suggest use it. You can if you don't want to. It's not the end of the world. They'll usually finish out fairly close. But if you start out like a 1.080 or 1070 or something like that, a lot of times it'll get down to like a 1010 or a 10015 or something like that, close to being done, but not necessarily dry. And maybe to some people's taste, a little bit still sweet. Um, but it's okay to run it at that point in time. You can run it. But a lot of people like to get, maximize their alcohol and get it finished out. And but sometimes when you let it get real dry and get all those sugars out of there and let it get extra dry, and that can carry over. So some people like that flavor carrying over, and some people don't care for it. So it's sometimes best to do it at 1.0. So experiment a little bit. Run it at a little 1.010 without the glucose when you're doing the rum, and see what kind of flavor you get there versus the 1.000 when it's just perfectly dry, done and not dry, and then maybe a 0.980 or 990 or something like that when it gets just even drier, when it gets real dry, and see if you can pick up on the nuances of the difference in flavor. But yeah, we love us some rum. I like using brown sugar, the dark brown sugar in a lot of my stuffs, and like in bananas, sometimes pineapple. I'll use some brown sugar with that just to give it a little extra. It's kind of a combination flavor. It gives a little bit of extra grunge from that rum and a little bit of that molasses flavor along with the fruit. Sometimes works pretty well. It works well with banana and pineapple. I've not experimented too many. I've not done it with apple yet, but I will try it with apple and see what that does with an apple. But try to mix it up a little bit, and get some different flavors, some unique flavors. What's going on, Curtis? Good to see you, brother. That's 1.1. That's pretty high. So, so you got a high alcohol content. It might be a little on the hot side, but that's good that it finishes out all the way. If it went to 0, that's awesome. I'm just curious if you use some rum yeast or what, but a lot of times, now the brown sugar is usually not as finicky as like blackstrap or just plain old molasses. So generally, brown sugar is basically just regular sucrose with molasses mixed in with it, right? So, and the the dark brown sugars just has a higher content of molasses. And I use that dark brown sugar, but it's generally not as finicky as just like straight molasses and then using a little sugar to bump it up. But yeah, that should have a lot of alcohol in there for you, brother. And that's it's gonna be hot. You're gonna have a lot of liquor. Yeah, I'm feeling a little bit better. Man, I don't know. I just sometimes eating, it makes me sick anymore. It's every time I eat, pretty much I get sick, and I've got irritable bowel syndrome, and sometimes I can eat just fine, and I don't have a problem, and then other times I can eat and just start feeling bad. And I guess it's probably the IBS I'm dealing with. I took a tummy pill when I got home, and usually that and sitting on here a little while and chatting will get me to feeling better. But hopefully I do. I'm feeling good though. I hated we had a good time sitting eating and chatting, talking to Mike and his fiance, and had a good time. Good talking to him, good seeing him again, and out back had a good old meal. But 5 days is a decent time. I mean, I guess your temps are right. So usually, if in this time of year, temps will be a little bit on the low side, and they tend to go a little slower. but 5 days is about right for a good rum wash or a sugar wash or a high sugar content wash. A lot of brandies do 5 6 days. Unless you get a lot of fructose in there, generally fructose will take a little bit longer the yeast take a little longer to eat the fructose than just a pure glucose. So a lot of times when you get higher fructose musts or mashes, it will take a little bit longer. But yeah, 5 days is good. Awesome, brother. Yeah, it looked awesome, man. It looked really good. I definitely appreciate it. I knew you selling yourself short and you said that touching it up be above the pay grade. I knew you had it in you, man. Just being modest. It looked awesome, brother. Yeah, it's hard to get rum dry. If you add the glucose, it'll work. It'll help. But yeah, I'm not so sure that you want to. You know, what's going on, Scott? Dang, I'm on time. Everybody's on time tonight. That's good to see, man. You can tell it's a Tuesday night. I did say Wednesday a minute ago, didn't I? Tuesday night. So yeah, I'm glad we moved to Tuesday night. Hell, Wednesday nights when Moonshiners comes on at 8, right? So we can't do a podcast at the same time as that. Nobody will be watching us when they watch Moonshiners, right? So yeah, we on Tuesday now. Use the old deity. 82. That's a good temperature. 82 is a good temp for that deity and for what you did this time of year especially. So yeah, that's why you got a good 5 day turn time instead of 7 to 10 that it'd been if it'd been in the mid to high 70s. So that's good. 80's good for that yeast anyway. I'll say yeah for the 80 yeast. But for like the EC 1118, a lot of people like to use. People don't know it. That's a champagne yeast, and it actually prefers temps in the 70s. So I try to recommend it during the winter time, just for that reason because it's a lot more temperature tolerant than some of your bread yeast or your dating yeast. But 82, you spot on with that, so it'll work well with that. And it's fine to use dating yeast for everything too. We were talking, I guess, last show. It's everybody tends to buy one or two yeast. It doesn't get a beginning. Uh, I recommend everybody just start with cheap old bread yeast and just do cracked corn and bread yeast for a long time, or even sugar and cornmeal, and bread yeast because it's cheap and your experimentation doesn't cost you when it doesn't come out. Like we were talking with somebody last week that had a lot of money in it, a lot of money involved in their mash, and it went bad. And it's like, it's hard pill to swallow. Sometimes you got $100 some in a mash, and all of a sudden it goes south, and it just tastes horrible. It turns out horrible, kind of like almost like my watermelon shot. I didn't have that much in it. I had about $50 in watermelons though. I bought a bunch of them, and about $60 actually. There's $3, and I got about 20 of them. So I got a big old batch of watermelon. I'm gonna be cleaning up soon, but yeah, it wasn't too bad. But sometimes when you get a lot of the malts and you get some heirloom corns and some malts and stuff, it's easy to have a lot of money wrapped up into it, and a lot of your fruit musts. It's easy to get a lot of money tied up into a lot of your fruit mashes too. That's why early on, I recommend people trying to tend to either use just juice when you're starting to make wines and brandies, or use half fruit, half juice, so you can supplement the juice that you get off the fruit with just a pure juice out of the jar or can, and a little frozen concentrates. It's good to add too to sweeten it up without having to add sugar, and it concentrates it more. You put that fruit concentrate in there, out of the cans, that frozen concentrate, and it can concentrate your flavors. It's also good to use that in your infusers too. That's real good stuff to infuse with. But it's a steady 75. Well, that 80 yeast, it doesn't mind 80s. High 70s, low 80s, it doesn't mind that at all. So, but starting it out warm probably got it going real quick. And two, when you first start out, when you start up, if you use one of the mud mixers like I preach using on your drill, it's a lot easier, especially if you get oxygenate that stuff. We get that drill mixer in there and let it chop the surface up and get lots of little bubbles and just really stir it up and chop it and get it oxygenated really well when you pitch that yeast in and being warm like that. it'll help the breeding, right? Your yeast breeds right off of the bat. They get that oxygen, high oxygen content. And they go into a breeding cycle, and it helps, you know, helps establish a good colony of yeast. So that's always a good thing to do as well at the beginning. But yeah, starting out in the 80s probably got it going real good. But yeah, 75, little tad low, but 75 to 80 would be fine. Uh, but here in the winter, if you get much below that, a lot of the bread yeast and some of the dailies tend to slow down a little bit. But looks like yours worked out just fine. That's awesome. Yeah, yeah, it does. I've seen it, get stuck at 102.02 for sure, and without adding some glucoamylase in there, it won't finish out any less than that, unless you just want to let it sit forever and ever and ever and ever. And then actually, I think it's other things in there, like little lactic acid and lacto might be eating some sugars and stuff. You just don't see the infection on the top, but yeah, it can take a bit. No problem, bro. That's what we're here for. And I'll just big happy family come in here, bring you questions, and we'll get you hit going and try to help out any way we can. Yeah, that's fine. Hell yeah. That'll definitely add some flavor to a neutral for sure. It's just regular sugar. A lot of people, it's a great starter, but it's also good to run every once in a while when you don't have anything else to do or nothing else, nothing's on sale, and you don't want to go buy some corn, you don't want to fool with it, you just want to make some damn liquor. I've done it many times, man. It's like, fuck it, I'm just gonna make some sugar shine, man. I don't want to go through all the time traveling doing anything else, and hell, in 5 days I can be drinking it. So I'll just make me a little sugar wash and get her done. But yeah, yeah, you can put that in the thumper for sure. Let me see. I'm already getting a little behind here. Yeah, I like bananas in it with mine as well. I do about the same combo there, Scott. Uh, I don't use as much molasses, if any. A lot of times I'll just use brown sugar in the bananas. If I have molasses, I'll add it. But it does good. I mean, it makes it. That's actually the base of my uh, root beer. It's not real banana tasting. It's just I'm not sure how yours turns out. Mine just turns out with a nice dark grungy flavor. It's not a real strong banana flavor, but it's a good soft, good clean soft, easy drinking. But it has like a note of grunge, and it's about all it has, And I was like, well, I was going to make some root beer with some, or I was going to make some peanut butter with it. And somebody said, well, you gotta be careful with that peanut butter. It can make it bitter. And I was like, this is awful good stuff. I'd hate to mess it up and make it all bitter and shit. And I'm like, I think I'll just do my root beer with that. This grungy flavor with that root beer would be pretty good. And man, it starts out with root beer, hits that grunge, and then finishes with root beer. And that root beer just hangs on your tongue, man. It's good. 225 gallons of water. Oh, what? You don't put that much water in it. I was gonna say I know better. I was gonna say you probably got that getting that Clint syndrome with auto-erect. What's going on, O'Sheen? Good to see you, brother. Actually, for a beginner, 100%. It's much more user friendly, and I mean, it's there's nothing that says you can't use both, O'Sheen. You can use that high temp to help thin that corn down while it's gelatinized at that high temp. And you use it about 185. So we're going to gelatinize the corn at 190, 200, just boiling, right? We're going to let her steep for 90 minutes and keep it, keep about a gallon or two water out. Don't use all your water all at once. Keep a couple of gallons out to the side. That way, we're going to put it in a cooler, right, and keep that temp in because you want to hold temp. So if you can wrap whatever it's in and for steeping and hold those temps in, the better you can insulate it, the better. So a big old cooler is one of the best things you can use, or fermented or insulated fermenter works real well too. Coolers are the best if you got a big ass cooler or a cooler that's going to hold it. And you just pour all your water, but a couple of gallons, and then keep those hot and boiling. And then, let you stir your corn in real good and just let it start gelatinizing on you. And, check your temperature every once in a while. Make sure you're at least 185, 190 ish. And you want to hold that temp for 90 minutes, right? And then once you get 90 minutes in, you can check it. And usually about if you've kept your temperature up by adding just a little bit of water each time that you're keeping hot, right? Just go ahead and dump the rest of your water in, let it gelatinize, sit for about 90 minutes to 2 hours. And then you can put your high temp amylase in there and stir it in. And once you stir it in, you'll see it go from a gelatinous state to start getting real thin again, right? And thin out. And don't worry, because it just keeps getting thinner and thinner. So stir that high temp amylase in and let it thin out on you. And then as it cools down, once it gets to 150 or so, if you want to add your malted barley in there, there's nothing that says a little overkill of alpha amylase is going to hurt anything, right? I don't think the amylase has any kind of flavor influence or anything like that on distillate. This is something we're distilling, so it's not going to have any kind of impact on your flavor. So, but it'll help make it a lot more manageable for you until you get down to that 150. And then when you added your malted barley in, you don't have to worry about having the diastatic power. So you can, instead of using that 6-row with a high diastatic, and it's a little bit more expensive, you can use specialty, malts and start experiment with, some blonde malts and some crystal malts and some, dark chocolate malts and whatever, lots of different malts. And you don't have to worry about whether they've been denatured or not, because you've already used the amylase on your high temp to break things down. So it's a lot more user friendly than using the barley route for sure. And there's nothing that says you can't try to do both. So you can cut your amylase use in half and depend a little bit on the barley if you want to. But if you got it, I mean, I've done that. I'll throw a little bit of powder in just because I've got it. When it gets down to 155, I'll start throwing a little powder in there just to get through it, because I got a big bag of it and I want to use it all. I just hate throwing it away. So I'll use a little bit less of the high temp on the front end, and then I'll add some powder and then maybe some malts on top of that, and let them all work together. And then, but I'll always use that liquid glucose as well, even though I know that the malted grains have beta glucanase in it. I'll go ahead and still use a little glucoamylase at the lower temps. And depending on what it is, some of them call to be added about 130, 35, maybe 40. Some want you to add it at 100. So I think it depends on the source of it. Some are bacterial, some are fungus sourced. So maybe the source of them, denature at different temperatures. I'm not haven't really totally read up on that, but I do know that some of them do denature at different temperatures. So just use on the package, if it says 140, it's going to be okay to use it at lower temperatures too. You just don't want to use the lower temperature one at the high temp, right? So if it says 100 or 110, then don't add it at 140. You just wait to the 110 to add it. So, but yeah, it's for beginners. I would definitely depend on the high temp, and it's nothing wrong with using a little bit of that, regardless of whether you're going to be using malted barley or not. If you're not using malted barley, of course you want to use it full strength. And if you're going to be using malted barley, you can cut it in half, as long as you got a sufficient amount of malted barley to finish it off, right? So to make sure, sometimes just go ahead and use your alpha at full strength, and then use your 2-row and not even worry about it. That way you don't have to have 20% of that to make sure you get the conversion. You can use whatever percentage you want, for flavor. Awesome. Weekly acidic, that's good. That's awesome, and as long as it doesn't have iron in it, that's awesome. That gives you, that'll save you a little money on citric acid because, we want it to be slightly acidic. When we start, doing our conversions at the very beginning. A lot of people wait to add that acid right when they're doing the yeast, and it's best if you can start, but that water that you're boiling, that you pour over the grains that you steep with, it's better to start with that because we know that acidity helps break those glycosidic bonds just like it does in the inverted sugar, right? We got to use citric acid to oxidize to speed that up and make it work. It's the same thing in breaking those glycogenic bonds down, in the glucose molecules in the corn that we start with in the complex starches. So yeah, that's definitely that helps. As long as it doesn't have iron in it, man, that's awesome. Good and clean without iron. That's awesome. What's going on, Kevin? Good to see you, brother. Again, prayers, man. I'm sorry I hear about your father. Uh, it's tough, man. I just lost my mom a couple of years ago, my sister last year, so I know it's tough, brother. We all praying for him, man. Hope y'all doing good. Hopefully this year be a lot better. I mean, it's tough. My mom's birthday was December 29th, so every Christmas, it's tough. My dad was born on Christmas, so I know after he passes, it's gonna ruin my Christmases because it's his birthday, So yeah, it's tough, bro. I definitely feel for you, my friend. Yeah, we got pretty warm here today. Yeah, rub it in. Oh, summertime here. Today got almost 50 here today. So I was thinking, damn, Clint, no way it's that damn warm down there in Tennessee. Is Moonshiners on tonight? I thought it was on Wednesday night. Wait a minute, wait a minute. New episodes Wednesdays 8 p.m. Something I don't know. Premieres January 6th. Well, I'm damn if it doesn't say new episode Wednesdays at 8, and then at the bottom of it it says premieres on Tuesday, January 6th. So is it going to be on Tuesday or what? I guess maybe just tonight it's going to be on Tuesday and usually on Wednesday. I thought it usually is on Wednesday night. Well, damn. I know JL Shine posting Militia, but it does at the bottom say premiere on Tuesday, January 6th. As they bury one of their own last old time legends, dozen surviving moonshiners must join forces to fight for their way of life before it's gone forever. I wonder who passed away recently. Well, I hate to hear that. I hadn't heard. I ain't been really in the loop though. I ain't been online a lot. Well, I'll be damned. So I guess it's on tonight. I don't get that channel anyway. So what's going up, Slacks? What you doing, brother? I know you probably said that 20 minutes ago. And I'm sorry, that's 15, 16 minutes ago. I'm behind as usual. I hope you're doing well, my friend. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, those free watermelon are a lot better, man. These are like $3 a piece, man. I bought 20 of them. And I bought different kinds too. I bought the seeded long, variegated color ones. And then I bought the small seedless dark green ones that are, basketball shaped. And then I bought I guess the hybrid that was variegated but seedless and round. And I will say the dark green was made the best wine mash out of all of them. The dark green seedless round ones. The seeded ones were a pain in the ass to get all the seeds out and to mulch them up. I didn't use pectic enzyme and I didn't use any of the rind. So I'm told by some people that the rind makes it melony taste not good, and other people say you need to use that rind, it makes it taste good. So I get mixed reviews on that, but yeah, I took all the rind out and I strained everything. I just used the juice, so I didn't get any of that pulp in there at all. I strained it all out, and it was horrible. And it was really warm though. It was real warm, and I used that Data yeast, which probably should have just used, or I'm sorry, I used DC 1118. I probably should just do Data or something for a little bit warmer temperature. But it was, yeah, it was in the 80s, mid to upper 80s, and finished quick and sat a little bit longer than it might have should have at that warm temperature. I should have probably run it as soon as it was ready and let it sit for a week. I was busy, and then I ran it like the week before, far in the bottle, and I didn't have time to rerun it or try to re-infuse it, and it just didn't come out well at all. Didn't like it. I'm gonna clean it up on a column and make some neutral out of it, do something with that. What's going on, Cave Daddy? Good to see you, brother. Awesome cornbread. I got you. Yeah, I'm gonna. I think that yellow label angel yeast was originally designed for using with rice, to help convert it so you don't have to use any other enzymes. I guess it's got some endogenic enzymes built into that yeast, kind of like what they use with the rum yeast. They're including some enzymes with their yeast. So I'm pretty sure that's what they're doing, but it's a unique enzyme that you can cold mash, right? With your corn and not have to gelatinize or anything like that, but it just takes quite a bit longer from what I've been told. I hadn't done it yet. I'm going to. Red Star Active, that's good yeast. Red Star makes good yeast. I use their Premier Rouge and Premier Blanc on probably most all my wines. I like it. It's good stuff. Yeah, I like it. Cornbread. Yeah, it does. There's a lot of people that don't realize a lot of these heirloom corns make pretty damn good cornmeal for cooking too. Have you got the smell? I didn't get much smell or flavor from it, but it was good. It was a good shine. I'm not that far behind. They do. Yeah, they really smooth it out a lot. It's kind of like oats almost. Really. It's a huge cap. Be careful if you ferment it for the first time. Give it plenty, and I mean plenty of room, half the fermenter room, because it'll make a big ass cap. But it really does make some good smooth liquor. I was expecting it to be a little bit hotter because of the brown sugar and being a lot of sugar involved, and it wasn't. It was pleasant. It was grungy and good. I like it. Oh yeah, I'm glad you reminded me of that. Uh, Bever has their stills. If you go to the Bever site, you can still get those 18 and a half gallon footballs right now for $208, 208.90, I think it is. And that sale be on till the 14th. So if you're on the fence about getting one, might be time to pull the trigger, right? So yeah, 205.80 or something like that. Yeah. So it's definitely a good time to give her a shot if that's what route you want to go. It's a pretty good price for a cook for an 18 and a half gallon stainless cook pot to begin with, and you're getting all the other goodies to go. So you can just tell your old lady you're gonna get her a pressure canner, put the little pressure rigs on the top. Um, but I took the end cap and tapped it and drilled it. I bought a little um, the weighted thing. It's 5, 10, 15 psi. You just turn the weight and add it to the little steam thing turner and a gauge, and make a little pressure canner out of it. It does have the false bottom too, so you can set your jars on there. I don't know if I put a lot of weight on that false bottom though. It's a little on the flimsy side, so you might have to want to put something a little underneath it, just at right height to help support it. But if you put something, a small jar or something underneath there to help support it, you probably can pretty easily in there. Yeah, that's good stuff. Yep, sell-ins on the 14th. Absolutely. Appreciate you reminding me of that. Also, after the last Saturday show, Clint sent me a message, Joe, you all right? And I guess my head was shaking a little bit, and doing this number. Anytime you see my head, I've got hyperactive leg syndrome, man. And I'll sit here and both of my legs will be going to beat the band like I'm playing the drums, and like I'm a Neil Peart or somebody over here. But that's just my hyperactive leg syndrome. I haven't had any strokes or anything like that. Lord hope I don't. But um, yeah, it's just my legs going. Usually you hear a squeak, 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 squeak when this chair squeaking when I do it, but I think I want it I wanted to squeak out. Oh yeah. Yeah, they would have used it. You better believe they would have. And the hydrometer, for $4 or $5, put that thing in there, tell you how much sugar, if you need to add a little bit more or not, instead of having to taste it and do guesswork, you damn straight they'd have used them, if you could have got them for $4 to $6. And back then, today, $4 to $6, I mean like $2 back in the days, hell yeah, we'd spent $2 all day long to get a hydrometer, to measure that. It just it wasn't Amazon or nothing available. We didn't know beer stores and brewery stores in town or nothing like that. But yeah, that's right. It's what I say, just use a little bit if you want to, just to make sure that you get, because a lot of times the malted barley that you're getting, especially if like Amazon and other stuff, you never know where it was malted, whether it's a good complete malt or if it's mixed, and whether it's been sitting in a warehouse somewhere on the top shelf where it's 150 degrees and getting hot up there, and how old it is, all those factors can kind of take away a little bit from its effectivity in the effectiveness. So yeah, it's always best to add a little bit. Well, yeah, just best way to distill to destroy your liver. Well, I guess make that high proof and just drink it if you're crazy enough to. But it's anything in moderation is good, but too much of anything is not so good. But that's right. I like feeling my liver quiver. Yeah, don't make cuts. Drink heads. There you go. That's right. Moderation. And sometimes at Maggie Valley, we throw that idea out the window. What's going on, DJ? Good to see you, brother. Well, better's an opinion, Monty. A lot of people, beer makers will 100%, I'd say 99 out of 100, or probably even higher than that, probably 995 out of 1,000 would say two row all day long because of the flavor. There's always those ones, that has to be different. But yeah, most people would say if you can use a two row for the flavor, definitely go with the two row. And it has a less diastatic power. So if you're strictly dependent on its conversion diastatic, you're going to have to use a little bit more of it. And so it's going to, might cost might be a little bit higher because you're using actually 30% instead of 20, or 25% instead of 20. Um, but yeah, for flavor wise, most people tend to prefer the two row, and the six row is kind of an American thing. It's got a higher diastatic, and it's usually mostly in distilling. For that reason, a lot of beer makers don't pour with it. They don't care about. They don't need that high diastatic, right? They're just going for 6% beer, right? So they don't really care, and they go more for flavor. And But yeah, if you're using liquid amylase, then you can use that 2-row and get the best of both worlds. You get the good conversion, whether it has it or not, or you can get some of the crystal malts and some of those other things that they usually do with 2-row, and not even worry about diastatic power at all, because the process of making that crystal or chocolate malt or dark malts and all those others, and is denatures the enzymes in it. So um, it's best to use that liquid. But yeah, 2-row, most people would prefer a 2-row because of the flavor. But again, that's the opinion thing, you know. Some people, you know, some people like that low shelf stuff too. But yeah, most people prefer the 2-row for the flavor. Yeah, the thumpers are generally a little bigger. Jar rigs are used primarily for infusing flavor. That's why, you know, they're small. You can add your flavorings in there, screw it in, and let it get that flavor. And once it gets watered down, the flavor, open up the bypass, undo the jar, put another jar in there, and you know, and open the bypass back up, and go right back at it. So jar rigs are generally used for infusion of flavors, whereas thumpers were generally used for doubling or redistilling and or incorporating tails into the alcohol. So a lot of times back in the old days, we just put tails in the thumpers to increase the yield and get the good ethanol out of the tails. That's why we saved them, and then and did it went that route. So different tools, you know. So different you know, we got different tools for different things and all the different you know, crafts and stuff. And so each would be their own unique tool. You know, thumper. Big thing about a thumper is it's generally larger, so it's hard to infuse in it. You'd have to add a lot to it to infuse with it. A lot of times there's not drains on them or a way to get the liquid out to redo it. So you'd pretty much be stuck with everything that's in there. But if you have a drain on it, you know, I guess you could use it for infusion and flavors, but it's going to take a lot of flavor, right? And a lot of stuff to add to a big old thumper versus a small jar. So that's why you see, you know, sometimes you'll see people using both. What's going on, JJ? Good to see you, brother. Oh, is Sue in there tonight? That's good. Let's see. I have to try to catch it. And you know what? I can watch about any damn thing on YouTube afterwards. But man, old Magilla, they must be on the ball, man. I can watch any sporting game, any fight. I don't care what it is. I can find it somewhere on YouTube after. Try finding freaking moonshiners on something. Hell, man, they strict on that shit. I guess they go after him. What's going on, Gary? Good to see you, brother. Glad you got us on here, brother. I can't believe they're doing Tuesday night. I thought it was Wednesday night. Damn. So they're doing a USS US or UJSSM with the Corb. Yeah, I like running it a second time or doing a sour mash as well. I only do that during the summer. It's kind of hard to keep going during the winter. And I don't want to bring it inside. Not real popular with the old lady. Especially, I did a little dunder pit for the rums. Yeah, those can get quite odoriferous. A proper word. Man, they get smelly and flies and yeah, it's bees attracting bees and everything. Yeah, man. Yeah, iron would definitely cause some problems in fermentation for sure. It affects the calcium and the calcium uptake, and and it definitely will impact it. It's not just the flavor; it's the actual chemical process that it interferes with of the fermentation. So yeah, it's definitely something you want to be weary of, and if you can get rid of it or use another water. But generally, if you have any sinks that have leaked, I know a lot of times if it's an old house, you can tell if there's iron in the water by looking at the sinks, because if it's dripped, there's always yellow there, right, where it's dripped and stuff. I know back in Eastern Kentucky, we got a lot of good stream water. Yeah, it's good stream water now. Yeah, it's got all kinds of irons in it and other things because of the coal mining, right? And a lot of the wells, there's a lot of iron there too. A lot of the wells and well water will be high iron content, and you let that you go into somebody's house that's got a well, and you look at their old sinks and stuff, and you'll see that yellow, where it's dripped. They've had a drip, and that iron definitely has an impact though. So if you can run but it's easily removed. That's one of the good things about it. It's easy to take the iron out if you want to run it through a Brita or a reverse osmosis filter or something like that. You can easily get rid of the iron. It's not too bad. Uh, but yeah, you definitely want to do something, take care of it beforehand, because it will impact your fermentations, which will stress yeast, which will impact flavor. So yes, it's not good all around. I know back in the days, early days, back in the 17 and 1800s, when they were trying to locate a lot of stills here in central Kentucky, where the limestone was, they always did a lot of testing for iron. Um, so it was hit and miss because a lot of the limestone and iron kind of run together, but there's certain times and places that you can get it without it, and that's where they tend to drill and find the streams and that had it, and the springs, I guess I should say, that had it, that was good and clean with a lot of limestone without the iron, and they tend to settle and put their um, distilleries there near the springs for that reason. No, it's nothing wrong with slowing down drinking. Lord, I have. I don't drink near as much as I used to, and I drink more wine now than I ever have. Growing up, I really wasn't a big wine drinker, but now I'm appreciating it a lot more and drinking it, and I don't drink as much as I used to. It's got to slow down, and especially if you're one of those that over imbibe. When I was younger, I tend to drink a little bit more than I should have. That's a nice way of saying it. And do this stupid shit, and but we all grow up and learn, so we learned to regulate it. And I went a long time without drinking at all, and kind of got my body right as well. And now I don't drink as much as I used to for sure now. And when I do, I can take a few drinks and then stop. Back in the old days, I couldn't stop till the jar was empty or the bottle was empty or everybody left the party. You know. Yeah, it does. It affects it. It's easy to filter out though because it's iron and it's a heavy metal, and it's pretty easy to filter out most of the Brita and that type filters, and definitely in the reverse osmosis filters. So yeah, it's easy to get it out of there. Yeah, right. Sodium and iron. Yeah, and that's why a lot of people have the wells. They've got salt treatments, right? They got the salt treatment to help soften the water and get a lot of impurities out and giardia and other things out. And of course, that makes it real soft and add sodium to it, which also isn't good. So if you got a salt purifier or you got a lot of iron, it probably, try to find another source if you can, or use a filter, use a good filter, and that'll help you out a lot. Yeah, I got mine off Amazon. It was on sale, and it was 25 for a brick, and I was like, well, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good price. It's about half price, so uh, I bought a brick of it, and So I'm gonna experiment. I think that's what I paid for. Let me open it up and see. I got it cheap. It's on sale. I'm not sure what it is now though. Let me look and see. Well, it's 33 normally, so I got a little off. It's normally 33. Let's see what I paid for it. I got it about the time I was ordering a bunch of Christmas stuff too, so I've had it a while. I need to use it. Yeah, 25 bucks. It was a little cheaper, but does it take that much? Damn. You got to do your taxes before you can do the untaxed. That's good, man. Well, those stills are on sale for the 14th, so that's a good deal. It's about 20. It's I don't know, it's $20, $30 off. You know, it's usually 230s. You can usually find them 230, 240 range. So yeah, it's a little bit off, 10, 15%, 20%. Yeah, you can do it slowly. Yeah, I mean, as long as you keep that temp, all as long as all the corn that's in there has been in there at least, that's the thing, at least 90 minutes to 2 hours, then you're good. You can't overdo it. You know, I guess you could, but you can't over steep. So yeah, if you wanna do that, just do your 25 and then put in 50 pounds of corn, or and then do 25, and then I don't know, you probably can't hold that much, so maybe 20 and 40 pounds of corn, just do about 2 pounds per gallon, right? So do about 20 gallons and then 40 pounds, then do it again and still be pretty close to the top. You gotta leave yourself a little room for a cap. But yeah, you can do, you know, 15 at a time, I guess 15 and 30, do 60 pounds and 30 gallons in that 55, probably be about a good way to go. Just do, because 25-gallon, pot, it's going to be to the very top. It's going to be heavy. So maybe just do 15 at a time twice. And yeah, and you can, add that corn as long as the corn you put in last is in there at least 90 minutes to 2 hours, and you keep your temp up. Yeah, you can, it's not going to hurt it to overkill, right? To have some that's going 2.5 hours, right? So yeah, you can do that, no problem. Yeah, man, they're expensive. What's going on, Mash Brothers? Good to see you, brother. What's going on, Miss Lisa? Good to see you in here. Hope your week's going well. Yeah, that's a high, that's a high barley run there. That'll definitely make a good lager. Yeah, one of these days I'll do an all grain, all wheat, or all barley, or an all rye. I've done all corn. I've never done a single malt, just all malt. I've never done that yet. One of these days, when I find me a farmer that's got a good deal on two row, I'll probably do all malt. But at $2 a pound, it gets pretty expensive if you want to do 100% and a decent run. May have to scroll back or watch it after we're done. I can't control how they scroll by. I don't have any control over that. It's just as somebody asks them, they go automatically, Ocean. So I'm sorry, but after the podcast, it'll be still here, and you can go back and watch it again. It'll be here all week, and you can just hit pause and write stuff down if you need to, or rewind, and so you can hear me say it. Sometimes I don't speak real clearly, and I speak real country. Sometimes people don't understand me well, or sometimes my chair gets all squeaky and it's hard to make out what I'm saying. But yeah, after the show, you can watch it again. Just if you want to make a little note of what time it was done, it can help you rewind and fast forward it to that specific time of the podcast, and you can get it right now. We're about an hour in. I guess a little over an hour on that. I'm a little bit behind, about 15 minutes behind, but we're about an hour into the podcast. So just make a little note of when the podcast. That way it'll be easy for you to rewind and read. But continue asking your questions, and you can just write down when you ask them and when I finally got to answer them 15 minutes later, and you can easily scroll back and check them. I wish I could control that, but as anybody comments, that's what causes them to scroll on. Actually, I'm 10 minutes behind. You said this 10 minutes ago when I didn't even didn't catch it till now. What's going on, Mark? It's about that time. Oh, wait a minute. Where's that? Yeah, here it is. I'm drinking a little something different tonight. A little honey shine. Compliments of Mike Nichols. He wanted me to give this a taste and do a little review on it. So we'll definitely have to do that. This is some honey shine. They keep honey bees. So he makes some honey shine. Got a good nose. Yeah, it's got a good nose to it. Good. Got good flavor up front. I mean, I get a little bit of that honey on the back end. Good. About 100, maybe 100, 110. Yeah, about 100, 110. Good stuff. Good job, Mikey. And he's been at it about a year and a half. For those of you that haven't been doing it, I tried some of his corn liquor too that they had. We had dinner tonight. And he's been at it about a year and a half. Well, he's been watching about a year and a half. I think he had it still about a year. But making damn good corn liquor too. So for those of you beginners, it doesn't take long. It's not long at all to where you'll pick right up on it and be making good liquor. So if your first run or two doesn't turn out well, mine didn't either. So don't get discouraged. Keep going and don't throw them away though. You can always run them again, proof them down, run them again, and clean it up. So there's something going on here. Do I need to scroll? I'm going to have to scroll all the way up. Oh, I'm glad I did that, Tex. I did that right at the right time. Somebody called shots. I'm about 15 minutes behind, so that's perfect time. Yeah, I enjoyed talking to Michelle. All right, let me just go back. Yeah, they just called shots at 8:40, 8:50. Mark and I guess Clint. So that's about where I'm at. That was perfect timing, man. That's awesome. Yeah, that's good. I got the honey on the back end for sure, and It's good. Doing a good job, man. He's, like I said, haven't been at a long time and doing great stuff, man. So for those of you out there, just don't get frustrated. You can. It's something that you can first time around make some of the best daggone stuff ever was, and just be like, wow, I did that. And it's easy to do if you just follow the instructions and try to keep that yeast happy in every way that you can, and distill it patiently and properly. Yeah, you can make good cuts. You can turn out some pretty good stuff. Very encouraging. But if we miss any of your questions, if I miss it, ask it again. So if we because it's easy. I try to stay up on things and I get behind, so I'll scroll and hopefully I don't scroll past a question. I scroll past a little bit of conversation between Clint, somebody else if he's helping him. I'll let him take care of that in the chat, and then if I and then I try to field questions anytime, whether he's answering or not. I don't see his answer later. I just see the question, and I'm positive he's probably answered it, but I'll reiterate and sometimes expound on it, and sometimes not. So I make a good team. Yeah, actually you can still get malt. You can get um, LME malt extracts and use them. Yeah, yeah, you can still get them. Now, it's not like malt liquor. Back in the old days, yeah, you get the malt liquor and all that in the cans like beer. When we talk about malts now, we're talking about it's a different malt and then like malt extracts. You can still get LME and liquid malt extracts. I toy with those some. Um, the DME dried malt extracts. Yeah. I don't even have the channel, but I did find hey babe, hey, I just can't hear me. She must have her headset on. I did find a channel that I got on the on the internet, free internet TV. I get like 900 channels. Why in the hell would I want to pay for TV? I get that and my antenna on my local news and stuff. That's all I need to see. But there was one channel, I can't remember what the name of it was, but it had a lot of like the old gold miner shows and a lot of the discovery shows. So it might be somebody that's buying their old stuff and doing it. So um, yeah, but that's hopefully I can find it on YouTube. Man, they tough on them, man. It's hard to find them on YouTube. If you find somebody finds it, send me a link because it's tough to find. I ain't encouraging wildcatting and copyright violating, but I wouldn't mind watching it. I know JB used to post them all the time. I don't know if I'll have to check his website out and see if he's posting them up. He used to post them all the time, and some weeks went by he wouldn't, at a time, and then every once in a while he would. And yeah, those liquid malts and DME and LME, they will foam up and they're very strong, so it's got a strong flavor to it. I just use the percentage. Some people use it. I found recently some people just use it straight. I think Scott or somebody's telling me they just use it straight with water and ran it that way. I've always used it just kind of as a flavoring with a lot of other grains and stuff, and just kind of flavored it up. But I guess you could do a single malt like that too, huh? Yeah, it's fun to malt. It's time consuming. If you do it on a large scale, it's a lot tougher. But for us, doing it small scale and just spread it out on a screen, as long as you got dried up, you got a place that you can put it out. Um, I used to just put it out on on sheets, put a rock and brick, keep it from blowing around, and then put the malt, the grains down, and then spray it, and then put another sheet on top of it and spray it, and just keep it wet. Go out and spray it every so often, just keep it moist and wet. And then when I got done, I just bundled it all up and put it on I've got some screen material. Where my mom lived, they had balconies, and she had a little cat going out there, so she didn't want the cat jumping off the second floor. She's afraid he's going to jump off. Wouldn't, but you never know. Cat's crazy. But so she wanted me to screen it in. So I built a little frame and put the screen. And damn, those things weren't, I thought they was 8 foot tall, like 10 foot tall. So I had to get a special screen. Most of it's 8 feet, and I wanted it to be continuous without a string, without a seam in it. And so I built frames and put it out there on her patio and stuff. And I had a little bit left over. And a lot of her neighbors were like, "Can you do that for me too?" So I had a good little side business going on putting those up. So I got a little bit of leftover screen material from that. And I just, got some 2x4s and built a little frame and put some screen on that. And when I wanted time to dry, I just spread it out on that screen and put another screen on top of it and weighed it down, and it'll air dry pretty quickly, and it won't have to worry about the wind blowing it off. And that works out pretty well. If you got the time, room, and the ability to do that, it works well. But then you gotta, kind of work it back and forth and get all those little legs off that have dried up, because they're a little bitter. If you can get most of those off, those little radicals off, that's best if you can, because they're pretty bitter. But after doing it so many times, it's like it's maybe not so bad after I'll just buying it. But I'd like to find a malt house, and I'm sure we got some around here, as much liquor as we've got here. So maybe that's something I'll do this spring, is try to source a malt house that'll sell to average Joe coming in. Most won't fool with you. Most of these places just contract out to the, but time for another sippy sip. Most of these people just contract out to the big guys, and they don't fool with you, which is why I like Firm Solutions. They most all their work goes to the big people, but they'll still deal with us little guys too. I like that about them. Yeah, there's a lot of places around here that have a lot of iron too. Back in the old days, there's especially around Moorhead and central eastern Kentucky, right around in that area. There's a lot of iron, mined commercially back in the Civil War and stuff, and you can still see some of those, I guess, chimneys and stuff that they used to smelt it in. Yeah, that's about all I malt anymore. Do the wheat. If I can find barley, I'd malt it too, but I can't find I can't find it. What's going on, Frank? We talking about whatever you want to talk about, brother. We don't have a topic tonight. We just answering questions and sitting around jabbering. Hurry back, brother. You're probably back already. 20 damn minutes. Y'all asking questions faster than I can scroll. What's going on, Chris? Good to see you, brother. I'm almost 15 minutes behind. I just leave them unique. That way you can kind of see how they age, and see if there's any uniqueness that they come up with over time. It'd be a good experiment. I'm not sure. I think the 14th is as long as that sale's going on, but they have sales all the time. It's again, it's 239, 240-ish. Actually, let me look here on eBay real quick. I know I'm behind. I'm gonna do it anyway. Hit my buddy JJ. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, right now you can get them off Amazon, $200 or best offer, free delivery. And that dude's got 331 positive feedback. It might be used. I don't know. Here's one for 290. Line Brewing Solution. I know those guys. I've ordered a bunch from them. They're good people, actually. I thought they were like a big, huge company. It's just a regular guy running his business. So they're good people. But I've talked to them before, and 290 though, man, that's pricey. I thought it was 190, and then I looked at it again. And it's like, oh, that is 290. Damn, he's proud of him. But usually around 230. Let me see if I can. Let's see. I get a lot more that way. Yeah, let's see, 269, and that's coming from. But man, they've gone up a little bit. I'm seeing a lot of 290s and 300s. So I guess price has gone up a little bit since I priced them. Looks here, 3.25. Wow, I haven't priced one in a while. So 300 for this one. Damn, they have gone up, JJ. So yeah, if you can borrow the money now, be a good time, brother, because that's a pretty good price then at 205. I always thought there's still about 239, 240 range, but looks like they're up into almost 300 now. I got mine is like 189.99, and then they had a Black Friday a few years ago. They sold them for 150 at Home Depot. I didn't know they'd gone up that much. But yeah, they're proud of them. They're real popular though. Yeah, they should give me a commission as much as I recommend them. But you know, they get too much more, and it's just going to be like, okay, well, I guess we're going to go with keg steel now. You know. I like reading Clint's auto correction and his mess ups instead of just Judy's. I Judy keep. I like to read him. It's funny. He does a good job though for somebody typing on his damn phone. He can keep up with better than I can. He's having to type it, but I do get a little bit long winded sometimes. You want to try to measure clears as best you can. So if you could kind of like use one of those clean. Now, if it's just milky color, just milky, yeah, that's not a biggie. But if it's got like particles in it, of like your cracked corn or your, particles, yeah, you don't want to get that in there. But if it's just milky, as long as it's not holding it up, yeah, you'll be fine. But try not to use as fine a flour. It's a little bit if it's best if it's kind of coarse to cracked, and the real thin stuff. If you like, you can save that for cornmeal to make you best cornmeal. It's cornmeal. So when you get number two yellow corn and you grind it up, uh, it's just cornmeal. You can use it to make you cornbread with. If you like saving some of that finer stuff, you can sieve some of that finer stuff off and just use it for your hush puppies or your cornbread. A lot of people they're weary of it. It's funny. It's just corn is corn. If you lived on a farm your whole life, you just it's just the same. Now it's not the sweet corn, but the same yellow dent that goes into cracked corn and whatever is now crack probably get a little bit more cob in it. So, but if you sieve it, you're not going to be getting all that. But yeah, I usually try to get rid of not use the powder so much. I like to have a little bit coarse grind, and crack's good. They say about 6 to 8 pieces from one kernel if you can get it that small. Hard to point, but that small a piece, but still a piece instead of a fine powder. A lot of people like grinding it fine, and they say it's easy to convert and gets better conversions, which I'm sure it does. But it's a lot harder to clear, and you have to just be patient. But yeah, if it's milky from just a little bit of from the real fine flour, that's going to be okay. You just don't want a lot of particles floating in there with it, like from the cap and stuff, right? So yeah. Yeah, had a good time, brother. Thanks for dinner and for the jar. It's good. What's going on, Francis? Good to see you, man. I'm glad we're entertaining you, brother. Yeah, I know. I sound a little bit country. Some people, though. Some people have a little trouble understanding me. That's cool, man. Hey, you're good. Just lurk and learn, my friend. Yeah, I got any questions? Jump in there and ask them. But yeah, we just sit around and talk about the hobby and help beginners learn how to make a little moonshine, a little rum, vodka, tequila, whatever you like to make, gin, whatever your favorite liquor is. We can help you. 269. I saw it in comments, JJ. Yeah, hopefully they'll stay on sale, but they'll always have another sale. You know, they'll have a 4th of July sale. You know, so it's there's always a sale. Just be patient. They'll have none. Need a small barrel on it. Yes, man, it's good honey shine too, especially on that back end. And he got his honeybees. He be gonna make some mead and some honey shine. And some smoked honey, some barrel cured honey. That's good stuff too. No, it's okay. Yeah, just you can basically you don't want to get the big particles in there, right? So if you just use the flour and you don't have any cracked corn, it's just all flour. I mean, I used cornmeal for ages, so yeah, it's I know what you're talking about. Yeah, you can just make sure you don't get any big, thick, heavy solids in there. One good way to do it, if you got one of those little screen strainers, I've got a pretty good size one. I just drop it down in the top and push all the thick stuff down and take a little coffee cup and just scoop clears right off the top. And it's milky. When I say clears, it don't get me wrong, it's not like water clear. It's just thin, right? And then yeah, it's not that critical, but it is important to try to get the big stuff away from it so you can get a good reading and see it better. Yeah, enjoyed it. Enjoyed having y'all for dinner, man. It's good. Have to do it again sometime, man. Good seeing y'all. Yeah, sweet corn and dent corn will be a little bit different methods and different flavors. I mean, you can do both. Sweet corn is expensive though. It's I always say if you can get a lot of sweet corn, you should be eating a lot of sweet corn. You should be freezing it, putting it up for eating because it does make a unique flavor and it does make good corn. I find it the best to just use a little bit and make a cream corn or blend it up into a puree and put that in the infuser and or use cream corn. Works real well to help your corn liquor out. It helps a lot. Gives a lot of good flavor. So it's basically a corn infusion flavor for corn liquor instead of like a blueberry brandy where you just put blueberry, puree in your infuser jars with a little bit of sugar and sweeten it up. You're just using the cream corn. So sweet corn works real well for that too. But you can get a lot of sugar, believe it or not. You can get a lot of sugar out of the starches in yellow and field corn, yellow dent corn, and it's actually cheaper to get the sugar from that than it would be just to use sugar alone. Believe it or not, that's why all these ethanol plants. That's why you don't see a bunch of sugar bags around them because using corn, especially at the prices you can get it from the farmer, straight from the farmer, is much cheaper. So much cheaper to get that sweetness out of a dent corn than a sweet corn and save that sweet corn free because that stuff's like 20 cents an ear at least, 20, 30 cents an ear, that's it's expensive. And it's such a good waste to get the corn. I love corn. When sweet corn's in, I'm in. I wait for the deal and then they drop the hammer, man, and I'll put up a bunch of frozen corn. And Eat it all year long. I do love me some corn. Yes, sir. I don't blow smoke now. If I said now this is not bad and it's not too bad or something like that, then I'm being nice. But no, it's good. It's real good. And getting that little bit of honey on the backside, sweetness. Yeah. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you and tell you, oh, it's the best I've ever had, man. It's the best. No, some people do that every jar they try, man. Oh, it's the best I've ever. And the people like their heads is getting big, but it's good and it's great. Actually, it's fabulous for somebody who's been doing it for a year. I've got so many. I do a lot of different ways. I do a lot of inline infusions. I've got a lot of different methods. It depends on what still I'm using. It's if I'm using my column, of course, I'm doing higher proof, and I've got setups where I'll go off one side and do high proof on one side and do a second run on, I'll do stripping runs on one side and finishing runs on the other. I've got some pretty wild setups as far as column wise. It's not traditional looking at all. It looks more industrial and commercial. Um, but I am going to do some infusion jars. I'm going to make some infusion rigs, I should say. I'm going to build some with copper instead of using jars because I don't not I mean I know the jars are fine and but there's always that risk of them breaking and I don't really push jars a lot because I don't want somebody's jar breaking and causing a big issue in the house and spilling on the stove or over top of the propane burner in the garage, start a little fire, and it's just it's best probably just to you can get copper, man, and just make a little half-gallon copper can, just like this, a juice can, and put an inch and a half, 2 inch, ferrule on the top, and an input and an output for your inline and outline, and a drain in the bottom. And I'm sure it's going to be a lot more expensive than a jar rig, but um, if you can solder, it don't have to be pretty. Oh hell, I thought he already knew what it was for. But I'll use all different kinds. But primarily, I strip on just traditional, more traditional, I guess you could say. Uh, but I do have columns for specific purposes as well. I do a little bit of all. But instead of an infuser, or I don't use much thumpers anymore. But an infuser, I'll use an inline infuser. But I'm gonna fix that. I'm gonna go with some copper, kind of like a jar rig, but copper, and use those instead. Because the inline, it's just I wasn't getting enough volume and getting it in and out. It was my steel so tall. I was up on a ladder pouring an infusion thing. It was right next to the ceiling, right, and and it's a pain in the ass trying to do all that and getting it in line. It's just it just wasn't getting enough volume to infuse enough flavor. So it'd be a lot better if I had two or three of the half-gallon infusers running in line together, and I'll probably go to that. It seems like it'll flavor carries better that way. Good to see you on here. Yeah, it's good meeting you. Good seeing y'all tonight. Do you use the LME for beer? Liquid malt extract? Yeah, I put a little bit sometimes in some of the grain mixes I got just to add a little flavor to it, but I've never done it just straight. Discovery Australia is on YouTube. Mm. And Hulu, I'll have to check them out. Am I that far behind again? 20 minutes. Damn it. Got some cream ale. So I never did much brewing. See, Mike did brewing too, JJ. He's an old brewer and done and converted into start making, which is probably why his 1 year old stuff is so damn good, is because he's been making beer for a while now. So he's not exactly a green pea, I guess you could say, you know. Yeah, we had a little Texas Roadhouse. Yeehaw. There were like 4 or 5 birthdays there, man. It was like everywhere tonight. Damn, this must have been a pretty popular night 9 months ago. Let's see, what was that? August, September, I guess. August. September. No, it's been more than that. May. Yeah, May, April babies, April conception. Yeah, little spring babies, born or conceived in the spring, I guess. Yeah, tell me about it. That's good. I'm trying to figure out what show we get on the internet. It's got some of the gold shows on there, the Australia gold shows on there. So I'm not sure which one it is. And she still got her headset on. I can't remember nothing. Yeah, I do too. But I guess they got a button down there to go voice. You can just talk, and I have to figure that out. Maybe that's what Clint's doing. He's just talking funny. That's why it's autocorrect. Are you using the speech to text? Iron furnaces. Yeah, they're iron furnaces. Yeah, we got a lot of them here in Kentucky, man. A lot of old iron furnaces. It's a bunch of brick and rock and just a big, huge furnace where they used to smelt. Thank you, Jeff. There's, man, I'm telling you, little words. Just I can't, like a few weeks ago, man, slobber pot. A few weeks before that, I couldn't think of a damn funnel. It's getting bad. Yeah. And yes, I'm starting to feel better. You know, I wasn't feeling good tonight. A lot of times after I eat, I don't feel good. You think you think I'd be skinny, right? Eating makes me feel bad. I eat anyway. Yeah, they got some pretty good shipping costs. They worked out some kind of deal. They got cut the shipping rates down a lot. Yeah, I've got that's what we've got. It's I don't think it's Rubbermaid, but it's I can't. It's the one they sell at Walmart, but it's a good one. And yeah, I used to just let it sit. I used to sit it in a grain bag and just tie it to the ladder and just put a bucket right in the middle of underneath the ladder and just let it sit there and drip overnight into the bucket and then come out the next day. I'm never in a hurry to do nothing. And it would be pretty dry. You know, I'd squeeze it out as best I could first with by hand, you know. And I just let it sit there and drip overnight. And I'd get a lot of it out, but I did a little experiment and I let it sit like that overnight. And then I got the mop wringer out and I probably got another half gallon out of it by pressing it, you know. So it'll get the juice out. Or if you're going to sour mash, you really don't need to squeeze the last bit of everything out. You know, just siphon off the clears and then add your back set sweetener and whatever grains you're going to replenish and just do it that way, and you don't have to worry about getting every little drop. You can just get it the next time or let it carry over and help. So there's other ways. If you don't want to get get every last drop out. Yeah. Yeah, and most of the glycerins surprisingly are vegetable based that they do use in a lot of stuff. I know uh, in the bamboo shine that I'm trying to think his name. Damn it, my mind just goes blank. But anyway, the Cuban cowboy in his bamboo shine, he there's a lot of glycerins in that bamboo, and that's what helped make it so daggone smooth. It's unbelievable how at 100 proof uh, you drink it, and it's just smoother than anything at 100 proof that you've ever drank. It's pretty interesting. Alfredo, man, how come I never think? I mean, it's a friend of mine. I can never think his damn. I need to talk to him more often, man. We used to talk all the time, and I haven't talked to him in a little bit. He's been busy, and I have too, and I have trouble remembering his name. It's terrible, terrible, terrible. Ambrosia. Yeah, oh, Chris worked on them welding up those grain elevators and building them. Yeah, yeah, and I'm going to do some infusion rigs with it. I've got a big old sheet in there. I'm going to hammer me out of steel and probably build me a 30-gallon or something. I need a little bit bigger, be nice. I've got the 18 and a half, and then I got a 15, and then I got a half keg, and I can use all those to distill in, and so having something a little bit bigger because I can go from 18 and a half down to 15 down to what 7.5. It's a half keg, it's a pony keg, so maybe 8-gallon keg, and then but I do need something a little bit bigger, maybe to do some of the bigger runs. Don't want to use an 80-gallon. Those things are been sitting a while. They're probably be, I don't know. I probably need to sell those. I'm never going to use them again. I probably should weld in some ferrules and make it where they can run it on electric and put 6 different elements in it and run them. That'd probably be a good deal. Sell somebody, got them a little artesian distillery going, or craft distillery. Trying to read some of these questions and get caught up. I need to. Yeah, Clint, they were talking about that. I think North Georgia is got them a little steam generator, and they were talking about just pumping steam directly into a pot. My thoughts are, why not just pump instead of steam? Why not pump alcohol vapors, from your primary pot? I mean, what's the difference, right? Because it seems to me like if you're pumping steam onto grains, you're going to be diluting your vapors a lot because a lot of all that steam is going to be, you know, water. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I've never run it like that, but I would think that if I was going to make steam, it'd have alcohol in it. Maybe run tails, make you steam with some tails and heat your grain with and do it that way might be a good idea too. Yeah, I need taco Alfredo. No, I'm never late to dinner, man. That's one thing I'm not late to. Yeah, it's cheap as dirt down here, man. Actually, we talked about it the other night. I guess you can get it from the farmer cheaper than dirt because you go to Home Depot and buy a 50-pound bag of dirt, it's going to cost you $15. I can get corn cheaper than that. So that's cheaper than dirt, literally. You ain't telling one. So you can get a little bit of corn to grow up there. That's good. Get you some of that Ohio blue. That's probably a little bit shorter growing season stuff. Ohio doesn't have the longest grow season like Florida or down south. So, but yeah, maybe some heirlooms or something might be might grow in a little bit shorter growing period. Might be acclimated to it. Best corn to use. Now that's a loaded question. There's really no best corn to use. Um, it would depend on A, how much you want to spend, and B, it's all about taste. If you wanted the least expensive to get a good corn liquor, Yellow Dent number two, hands down. That's some of the best bourbons and whiskeys in the world are made with that. And you don't have to spend big bucks to buy heirloom corn to get a good bourbon or whiskey, right? You can use just Yellow Dent, which Old Pappy and some of the best Weller, all this other stuff. They don't use heirloom grains in their corn liquor and well in the whiskey and bourbons that are 60-80% corn. So that's all Yellow Dent. So I would say best price wise, easily Yellow Dent hands down. If you want a unique flavor, then you can start sneaking into the heirlooms. The Ohio Blue kind of gives you that sweet flavor. Your Bloody Butcher going to give you an oily, rich, grungy flavor. And everything in between. There's the Oaxacan green gives unique flavors, and I want to try with sage orange. There's so many different corns for so many different places with unique flavors to them. So if you want to get an artesian, kind of craft thing going on, then you can experiment with some of those. They're more expensive, and it's easy to do on a smaller scale like we do. But on a big scale, most of your big commercial producers, of course, going to use that Yellow Dent they can get for pennies, pennies a pound. We appreciate it, brother. Hey, that's what we're here for, my man. But yeah, you had that beer background. You knew we're not too far behind. We're only 7 minutes now. Alfredo's is great, man. It's really good. The bamboo, it's I mean, it's not the best liquor I've ever drank, no, but it's very unique flavored. But one thing that you will definitely take from away from it is probably some of the smoothest, softest 100 proof alcohol that you'll ever put to your lips. And I mean, it's just unbelievably, it's just unbelievable. And it's because there's so much natural glycerol in the bamboo itself. So yeah, it's really smooth. And it's going to be tough to use in a mixed drink. It would. I mean, it'd be, I guess, good for that because it would get lost. There's just the softness. It's not a lot of flavor. Not, it's a little bit grassy, but just so soft, and smooth. Definitely something you definitely should try. It puts you up a little bridge, bro. Yeah, now some of them use boilers for steam jacketed steels. Now, if it's a jacketed steel, that's another thing. That's different than what I'm talking about. I think he's talking about actually putting steam into the mash inside the boiler, instead of around it to heat it. So that's a little bit different. Yeah, yeah, that's the best way to get it. Just buy the whole kernel corn in the bag, 15 bucks, 12, 13, 15 bucks for a 50-pound bag. Now, if you can find a farmer, you can get it for less than half that. As a matter of fact, you take them a tote and a container, they'll fill it up for next to nothing. Because a lot of times they'll have half the cost is in the bag itself that they put it in, right? So if you take a pickup truck, they'll load the bed up, or you take a tote, they'll fill a tote up, or you take barrels, they'll fill your barrels up. Now, it makes them heavy as hell. You probably put 400 pounds in a barrel, 400 or 500 pounds in a 55-gallon barrel. But yeah, they'll load you down pretty cheap if you know a farmer that's got that yellow dent. And it's just field corn. It's just high starch field corn. Get good quality, make sure it's dry, good and dry, and it doesn't have a lot of moisture in it, because if it has a lot of moisture in it and not good and dry, then you run the risk of it molding, and then it's just not good. So you don't want it molding up on you. So if you get a good dry corn and store it in a dry place, these barrels that you can seal make pretty good storage bins for it. And if you get it in the fall, you can store it in those lockable that's sealed. That's can't let any moisture, air, in it all. It's got to be really, really airtight and watertight. But if you can find those, I mean, let it sit during the winter time, and if it gets cold where you live, it'll kill all the weevils out of it and all the larvae. So you don't have to worry about those in it. You can use it all next spring and summer. Yeah, I wasn't sure if it's steam jacketed steel now. That's common, very common. But North Georgia came out with something. They were running steam from one steel into another steel to distill. Now I don't think it was in a coil or anything. I think it was just pumping the steam into that to distill with. And I was thinking that'd work well, but it would probably dilute it down. So you'd probably come off at a pretty low proof. But it might be good for stripping, or something like that. And it might be great, because you can get it right off that grain. But yeah, if it's a jacketed steam steel, yeah, that's a little bit different. Yeah, it's cheaper than dirt here, brother. Hell yeah. Yeah, you can make your own sugar out of corn a lot cheaper than you can buy sugar or dextrose. That's for sure, especially dextrose. Yeah, yeah, you can. And it depends, right, on the variety. Yeah. Yeah, it depends on the variety and you're growing the area that you're at. I have an okay tasting mash and intend to strip it through a thumper. Are there any portion I can keep directly from the strip thumper run, or is it better if I run everything through my column? No, actually, a thumper is probably an intermediate tool, and probably not even for beginner's use. And I'm not saying that in a condescending way. I don't even use a thumper much anymore, really. Um, Basically, I use infusers now and inline infusion. And as far as for adding flavor. A thumper primarily used in the past for putting tails in and to get higher proof and to run the tails so I could increase my volume. But now I don't really chase the proof as much as I used to because I used to not know as much and I wanted to get that higher proof stuff and have those bragging rights and have that high octane stuff and brag about how strong it was and all that. And I don't do that so much anymore, so I don't need the thumper for that. But the thumper also was good for. Now I just use tails. I just pour them into my mash right before I get ready to run. I just pour it in the pot, then run it along with what I've got ready, the beer I've got ready to run. But with a column, you tend to get higher proof and strip flavors. So, I would use only the column for like maybe your sugar washes or things that you want to get a higher proof and make maybe a vodka out of and get a neutral flavor that you just have no flavor from. Um, but but yeah, I'd say take that thumper off there and just run your corn straight through. And or if you want to run the thumper, put some cream corn in there, a can or two of cream corn, big cans. You can get them cheap at some of these Aldi type stores and Save a Lot type stores and stores that have these off brands instead of the name brand like Jolly Green Giant cream corn. You don't want to have to pay for that, but you can get basically any cream corn, or you can cream your own corn. You can get sweet corn cans of sweet corn and just puree it, run it through a blender, and add a little sugar and sweeten it up, and just run it through a blender and use that. But yeah, it helps a lot. It'll help your flavor out a lot. Yeah. Your kernels will stay fresher longer than the cracked corn. It's they're basically wrapped tight, and that husk. That's what that husk is there. It's a protective layer to keep that moisture in and keep it, you know, fresh for a long period of time, and it will with that husk on there. Whereas if it's cracked, it oxidizes. It's getting oxidized and it's touching air and it breaks down a lot quicker and it molds up a lot quicker on you. So once it's cracked, the clock has started. But when it's whole corn, whole kernel, yeah, it's got a much longer shelf life. How long can popcorn sit on your shelf at home before you cook it? Years. So as long as it's good and dry, it'll last a long time. And it's kind of like coffee. Beans, they're much better freshly ground and much more flavor. Your corn will be the same way if it's freshly ground and cracked versus buying it at the store cracked and holding on to it for 6 months and then finally getting it to run. It doesn't have as much flavor because it airs out a lot, right? So yeah, definitely get that whole kernel and get you and buy get a grain mill. Don't be like me and use cheap blenders from Goodwill and ruin your old ladies food processors and get them all mad at you by dulling and breaking their blades up and dulling them out. I did that for a long time, and tried a little hand crank grain mills and all that stuff, and got mixed results. It was okay, but finally broke down and bought an electric one Black Friday 2 years ago, so maybe going on 3 years now, and got a good deal on it, real good deal on it. It's like $100 off, right? And it was a decent grain mill. It's the same one everybody buying. Blue motor ready, and red shroud, and works real well. And it's a lot better. You can buy that kernel and crack it whenever you want to do it. Yeah, I got this off Wayfair, Texas. I got it off Wayfair probably 3 years ago, but I didn't even know they even sold that kind of stuff on Wayfair. But I did a Google search and I was just looking, it was close to Christmas, Black Friday, and I was just looking at different stuff and just happened to scroll past on the grain mill. But 147, 100 something, 147, 167. I looked at the specs on it and it was the same one that was selling for, 250, 70, $80, everywhere else. I'm like, that's a pretty good deal, side leg, look, 2,700 watts, I think it was. And I'm like, well, that's a good one. And so I jumped on it. I think Vever right now probably still has a good one on sale, one of their commercial units. It might be 3,000 watts. And it was, last I saw it, looked like it was a pretty decent deal on that too. So if you want to look at that, let me see if I can find it real quick. Can't believe I couldn't think about Fredo's name. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, I think they still have a good deal on it. Looks like this one. I'm not sure if that's the one I was looking at though. Yeah, this 3,000 watt one. And I think it's wet. Oh no, this is dry. I think they've got a wet and dry one too. Yeah, I think they've got a dry and wet one. It's 175. Yeah, get the one that's wet and dry. It's 175. 3,000 watt. It's commercial. You can see the difference in that and the other one. The other one's pretty much what a lot of other people have, but that wet dry one, it looks to be a little bit better. And 175, that's a really good price on those. Beverage needs to hire me as a salesman, don't they? They need to give me commission, but looks like a really solid unit. And that's a 3,000 watt. Mine's like 2,700 watts, so that's uh, that's got a little bit more power, and it's a nice looking unit too. Now, a lot of these won't have on-off switches, and this one I don't see one on these either. So don't be mad that you've got one without one. You just with the power line coming in, you can cut that and put a little switch in line if you want to, or plug it into something that's switched. Um, but yeah, either one would be fine if you're on a budget. I'm sure that $159 would be fine because don't do a lot of wet stuff, but if you ever did get some regular wet corn, sweet corn, or something that you wanted to run through it, or wanted to grind some fruit up or something like that through it, you definitely could, break some fruit up pretty quickly and well with one of these, and having that wet capability. I've seen a lot of people use the sink disposers, I mean, I'm hoping that they weren't used for other stuff before this and that they're buying them fresh for this, but, or at least cleaning them up real well, running boiling water through there, maybe some sand star or something. But well, we were talking tonight about I'm a little bit picky on and keeping things clean and sterile from winemaking and just seeing some of the conditions that a lot of other stuff are made in. It kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies sometimes. I'm not that, but man, I especially when it's coming to brandies and wines and stuff, I like keeping things pretty clean. Yeah, that's a great deal. If y'all haven't checked it out, um, I'm not sure what the regular price is on these. It doesn't say how much off or anything like that, but I know it's a damn good price on both of them. So yeah, you can get the steel for 205 and this dry grinder for 159 for 360 bucks. 370 bucks. You could have the mill and the steel both. The mill and the steel. There you go. Poet and don't know it. Yeah, I had little hand crank ones, and everybody puts it. Yeah, just cut the hand crank off and put your drill on there and hold it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This one it's not green, but it's yeah. She wasn't happy. Well, it's my ex, so maybe it has something to do with that too. Yeah, yeah. That's a pretty good deal though. Yeah, you can run anything. You can run your peaches through it. Just pull the pit out. You can run the grape, anything through it. it'd be good for pretty much all you grinding up all your fruits and everything that you didn't mind getting the peels and stuff in and the skins. But it pretty much mulch anything up you put in there. Also, I don't know if y'all see the guy, I can't remember who it was, but fella get these ice shavers. You seen they put like big chunks of ice and they make smoothies out of it. And they got this machine that cuts up ice, and it wasn't like they've gone up ever since then because I think people are starting to get onto it and using it for different things. But they were only like $29, $39 on Amazon when it first happened. Now they're 49, 59, 69 because I guess they get popular. But they're just ice shavers, and you put ice in there and just push the little handle down that forces the ice to it. And so some dude got the bright idea. Well, hell, I think I can just use that for apples, right? So he cut his apples up, core them, just started feeding apples in there. Man, just man. He went through a bushel of apples in no time, man. I'm like, and it made, you know, applesauce coming out the other end. It was doing a fine job on it. And I was like, man, that's the trick right there. And it was those work pretty well. And I don't think it would. Of course, if you want to, you can sift through it and get out your seeds. You don't want apple seeds in there all busted up and stuff. It's not good. It's not as bad as like uh, a cherry pit, right? And some of the pits. Um, yeah, it was pretty slick. I think he halved them and maybe cut the core out of them, or maybe just cored them and pushed them in there. But it's pretty slick, man. That thing went through them pretty quickly and quite well. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I think you definitely want to core them, and I think they do. Not so much. It would take a bunch, right? Apple seeds, but there are a lot of pits like cherry. There's some common cherries that we eat a lot, and the pits from those. I'm not sure if it's maraschinos or just the regular cherries that we get from the store, but some of those cherries, there's a particular type in particular that has a very high cyanide content. So you definitely don't want to break up any stones of any fruits or, get seeds of apples or those out. Apples, I think it would take probably a lot, and 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 believe it or not, the temps that we distill at is not anywhere near close enough to distill out or denature the cyanide that's in there. It takes thousands of degrees. So, uh, all right, not everybody's got that stuff on hand, but yeah, it's. I think it might have cored them. Maybe just pushed, like a round thing through and just took out the cores and just fed them in there, or cut them in half. I just remember, man, he's throwing apples in there, just going through them and like nobody's business, man. Yeah, time to do a little shotty shot. It's 10. Yeah, they will. Yeah, I think old Tom collects a lot of that old tractor stuff. What proof's that, Tex? I was guessing 100, 110. What is that? Now, I've had hard red winter wheat, but I've not had Ben Holiday. That's just probably a variety that's close to you. But yeah, red wheat, you get the hard wheat, the hard red winter wheat. Man, it's pretty tough. It's hard on a blender. Trust me, I know. Um, but yeah, it's pretty tough. Yeah, I got caught up there. I sure did, man. How about that? I can actually talk with people as they type it. I'm part of the conversation now. 90. It tasted like 100, maybe 110, but it's good. Maybe it's because I've been drinking 130. I could tell it was definitely less than what I have been drinking. This stuff's pretty hot right here. This is that blackberry pineapple, and it's 130. It's pretty spicy. So I knew that was less. I was guessing 100 or so. Compared to that, it's a lot less. Yeah, I am a man, not the man. I'm not sure the Corona meal we were talking about here. Let me look at a Corona grain meal. Oh, so that's like the hand grind type, right? Those work fine, but it's like if you have, yeah, I see what you're talking about. Are you talking about the hand grinding type, JJ? Um, yeah, I had one of those very similar to that one actually, the Corona cast iron, $50. I will say they work fine. Yeah, it works fine, and you can cut it off. You put your drill on there and speed it up a little bit, but it's still slow and arduous if you're going to run 50-pound bags. If you're just going to buy a bag and grind it all up and run 50 pounds and 20 gallons of water, it's going to be pretty tough. You know, it's definitely going to be pretty tough. Yeah, I didn't get try none of that bourbon. He shared the cornmeal or corn liquor and the honey, but I didn't share none of that bourbon. What kind of bourbon you drinking? Is that homemade or? I thought it was Michelle's. Thought I guess she didn't want to impose and drink a beer as dinner. Like, hell yeah, I have a beer. I like beer. I'd be drinking it too. I'm just not ever been a big beer drinker. It's always been bourbon or okay, tax stuff. All right. Hell yeah. Yeah, O'Sheen, I can tell he's going to be making some good stuff for long. He'll be like Tex, be year in making some top shelf. Yeah, it is fine, John, JJ, and it works. But looking at 59 versus 159, if things are real tight, then I would say, yeah, but for just 3 times, and if you do bags at a time, 50 pounds at a time, or I would definitely just go with the grain mill. Knowing now, you know, 10 years ago, if you'd asked me, I'd said, hell no, it's crazy to spend that kind of money, just grind it by hand, do it old school and all that. But now, man, I look back on it, it's so much quicker and easier and does a better job. I don't know if I could say that now. Don't get us started, Carp. I know, man. You just have to come visit us down here in the Bluegrass, man. We can drink all you want. Banana strawberry sounds like a good combo. Yep. Yeah, man, that's what we're here for, brother. That's what we're here for. Yeah, I always wanted to do the honey thing. But I didn't know there was a lot of work involved. I thought basically you just put the boxes out there and brought in the bees and put your bag of bees into the into the box and then check it every few months and reap the honey. And I didn't know they had the little centrifuge to spin it and get it out of there, but didn't know it was quite as much work, and then daily involvement is what it is. It's a lot more work than I thought. So that plus living, in the city, yeah, that wouldn't be the best place. There's not a lot of clover fields around here. Well, as long as the seeds aren't broken, um, you don't have to worry because yeah, even in a mash, as long as it didn't get into the distillation part and get heated up, then you wouldn't have anything to worry about. But running them through that shaver would definitely cut them up. It would shave them up and crack them up pretty good. So you definitely want to core it before running it through anything like that. Um, so even yeah, if you broke them up, it would get into your mash and it would easily carry over into your um, uh, wash and into your boiler and would carry forward. It doesn't break down like that. It takes like 1,500 degrees to break it down. So maybe even more than that. I think it was some ridiculous amount. Alan Bishop, we had this discussion on in the militia. Somebody was talking about it, and somebody's like, "Oh, it's no big deal. They'll denature, when you boil them over." And Alan's like, "No." I think it's a crazy amount. Let's see how free cyanide. It would require 300 degrees. Complex cyanide, 5 to 700, or cyanide salts over 1,500. Yeah, so this would probably be. It would take well over 3 to 500 at least to even begin to break them down. Yeah, Clint's auto cracks me up. Yeah, I think sour mashing too. I agree with Tex. It's so economical, and I think that might have been the origins of it. Is how economical it was, and the fact that a lot of people were making thin mashes back in the day, and they would try to stretch that sugar, basically corn flavored sugar shine out as long as they could. And I think that the simple sour mash method is um, very economical, and it gets most. Now the old traditional sour mash method, you use fresh grains every time. You just use the back set to make it bring in the sourness and the flavor from the back set to carry over. Um, but the Uncle Jesse Simple, uses the spent grains, and I like I say, add maybe 10% fresh each time you do it, so you can perpetuate it and get it, consistent. Definitely the way to go. You can do it all summer long. Yeah, well, that sounds like a pretty good size one. You probably do a bag in no time. Well, Texas is a beer maker, man. He knows how to ferment. Yeah, it was good. Yeah, Texas does a lot of mountain brandies as well. He's learned quite a bit in a year and a half. Yeah, I think you might have asked me something once before. Now, not a spruce beer in particular, but um, I'm pine needle tea. Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier. There's a certain types that you can use, certain types you probably shouldn't. But I'm learning more about the saps and stuff. A lot of people heat them up and render them down and use it for holistic medicine and stuff. But I'd just be careful. I know that there's certain types of juniper berries and juniper that's toxic. So you want to make sure that you're using the right kind. And when you start using trees and saps and things of that nature, you really want to make sure that you do the research on it and know exactly what you're doing, because there's a lot that like the juniper berries, for example. Some juniper berries are perfectly fine to use, and some are toxic. I don't mean toxic to the point where they're just going to kill you and make you die, but they're going to make you sick, and who knows what kind of organ issues you might have from using them and other problems as a result. But be real conscious, especially when you start experimenting with leaves and roots and stuff. It's a lot of trees create toxins in the leaves and stuff to keep animals from browsing on them. And over the years, they evolve toxins in these things, so the animals don't eat them up. And so a lot of leaves and stuff, even common leaves and stuff, and barks are toxic, and they create these toxins over naturally, to keep insects and animals from eating them and boring into them and stuff. So you have to be real careful, and knowledgeable when you start experimenting with a lot of things like that. Um, so be glad we're in the times we are now, where you can get on the internet and pull up some reliable sources from some edu sites. I don't mean Reddit. Don't listen to Reddit and what people say on there. Everybody on there is an authority on everything. You'll see some guy giving legal and welding experience advice in the same thread. You get a lot of experts on there that don't know what the shit they're talking about. I get on there and it's cracked me up. I read some of the stuff that's on there and it's like, that's so far wrong, man. I don't know where to begin. But yeah, try to consider your source when you do your research on the internet, and AI, even stubborn shit. AI gives you some really wrong answers on some stuff. So don't listen to that necessarily either. But be real conscious of the trees that you're dealing with, and make sure they're safe, because that's what we try to push your safety. And it's great to experiment, but don't experiment with your health. But yeah, with the juniper berries, make sure you're getting it off the right tree, because some of them gonna make you pretty sick. I'm not a big gin man either. I drank it when I was younger, and we drank it Tangeray, and it was kind of gin and tonics were pretty popular, and they're great until you get sick on them, and you had that gin coming out of your nose when you spit up, throwing them up. Yeah, it's not good. And after that happens, it's like maybe gin it for me. Yes, it does. It spits out garbage with confidence, man. It's amassed bullshit from so many bullshitters that thinks it's fact, because it's heard it from so many bad sources. But it's yeah, there's definitely some bad sources out there for sure. Yeah, we used to drink a little slow gin fizz and gin and tonics. That was a big thing. Gin and tonics. Everybody drank gin and tonics for a long time. As in the party days. I wished I wished I'd have been a little more mature back in the day. We used to party, and man, I had some buddies of mine that wealthy from coal money, and shit, they go and buy that Dom Perignon, drink it, and just sit there and just drink it out of the bottle and just guzzle it, 100, $200 bottles. And, people at the restaurant be like, what? Oh my God. We sitting there drinking Dom Perignon from the bottle, crazy stuff. Yeah, I like citrus and floral gins. That's kind of something new, and Lisa Lowry makes some pretty good gins too. She makes some real good gins and some interesting different floral type gins and stuff. And there was a gal that uh, Still Talking had on the other night, Mina, I think was her name. And she does a lot of floral type gins and stuff. Very interesting. Listen to her talk and talked a little bit, asked her some questions, and she was experimenting with vacuum distillation as well, and that's a good way to make gins. Probably going to be one of the best ways in the future that they make gins is because the when you do a vacuum distillation, you can distill it lower with a vacuum. You can distill at lower temperatures, right? So as you increase the vacuum, the boiling point of alcohol and everything decreases immensely. So you can boil alcohol off at 100 degrees if you get the right um, atmosphere, negative atmosphere. So vacuum distillation is a lot used a lot in the marijuana industry as well, so they can maintain flavors and terpenes and keep flavors and flavonoids and stuff. And also in the gin industry, they're using it to help keep flavors from a lot of the floral notes that get lost with high temperature. A lot of the flowers and other stuff that they use in it get lost with the high temperature. And so now, if you can vacuum distill it at low temperatures, it retains a lot of these flavor notes. So I look for more and more gin makers to. I know there's one on the East Coast that does it. Somebody last time I talked about it, so there's somebody in California doing it as well. Back when I first started researching I don't think there was any commercial distilleries doing it yet. Um, it was just something that was talked about, and I did a little bit of experimentation, which I could, and then pretty interesting. You know, it's definitely something that's going to be a big thing in the future, and probably be huge in the gin industry because of the flavors. And once you start making these floral gins that nobody can touch. It's like, how did you get that kind of flavor? And it's going to be a little secret that they that vacuum distilled it. I think you meant peated scotch, not plated. I love those little auto corrects. That's funny. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the high peat scotch, and really, scotch is to me, it's always been kind of a um, harsh tasting whiskey. I've drank quite a bit of it. I know my grandfather, man, he had this bottle called King's Ransom Scotch, and it was over 100 years old, and had it in his basement. He had a liquor store. He bought a liquor store, and he was in the liquor store, and he bought it. And he's like, immediately, he was like gold. He always that was one of his prized possessions. And my little cousin had a little sleepover, and all their little friends got together, and they snuck over and got that bottle of 120-year-old scotch out now. They guzzled it. And he blamed me. He's like, she would have done that. It was you. You did it, damn it. And I'm like, no, I would never. And yeah, it was. I think this dying day he swore it was me that did it. And well, I mean, my cousin did it. She told me about it. And I bet it was something else. But yeah, it was a pretty high dollar bottle, $1,000 bottle of scotch. Yeah, he was pissed off, man. He didn't forget that. He held that against me, and man, McClellan, that's some of that highbrow stuff, brother. If you can afford McClellan, you can afford a damn a meal. I can say that. Just don't buy that next bottle at McClellan and get a meal instead. That stuff ain't cheap. That's good shit though, man. That's some of the best there is. It's just for me. It's not like that. It's just really kind of harsh tasting. You know, it's always I prefer the sweet, soft bourbons, you know, but to me it's always been a harsher tasting, you know, and it's like I've always considered my shine and my whiskeys better than Scotch because it was smoother and easier to drink. It's just always tasted harsh to me. And that's probably another reason I've never done a lot of single grain or all malt. Yeah, that McClellan ain't cheap. That stuff's expensive. Let me see what they cost. That 12-year-old, what is it? Single malt Highland, just 75. Oh, wait a minute. Here's some other. That's probably this place got it for 35. So it's a little less expensive than I thought. Here's some McClellans for $20. McAllen, that's what I was thinking of, not McClellan, McAllen. That's what I was thinking, McAllen. I'm sorry. Yeah, not McClellan, McAllen. Different Mac. Okay, I'll take it back. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I looked it up, JJ. I was thinking of McAllen. McAllen 12. Yeah. Here's a McAllen 25. It's just 2,100 a bottle. I'll get one. Damn. That's some of the like me and Jeff were talking. You know, some of the antique collection and some of the trying to appropriated bourbons that they put out. You know, it might cost $100 to $150 to buy them there, but on the secondary market, they're 3, 5, some of them $1,200. Crazy, you know. So there's a lot of people that make a living here just going to the distillery and getting some of these, like Buffalo Trace, the antique collection. You can go in there and get some of those when you can get it. $140, $50 a bottle. Take it home, put it on eBay for $400 or $500, sell it in a heartbeat, or put it on one of these bourbon sites. I don't know if they'll even let you do that on eBay anymore. Used to, man. I bought a pistol off eBay back in the day. Now when they first started, you ain't gonna do that now. It's hard to even get a gun accessory on there. But yeah, I like eBay. I used to buy a lot of stuff on there. Ugh, I'm tired. About 10:30. It's about that time for a Wednesday or Tuesday. Keep thinking we're at Wednesday. Rare breed. I was seeing today that got quite a few distilleries filing for Chapter 11, Chapter 13 right now. Um, we talked about some just closing, their distillery for a year and retooling for higher end stuff. And I think it was Jim Beam, but some of them are actually, some of the smaller ones are starting to go out of business. Oh yeah, the Stag. Well, that's one of the antique collections, actually. Let me pull up the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection. I think the Stag 12 or something like that is. Let's see if I can pull it up here where I can actually see what they are. But yeah, if you can get the whole 7 jar, 2, 4, 2, 4, 6. I thought there's 7. six, I guess. The whole six bottle collection can sell for $8,000 to $10,000. Here's 12,000. This is crazy. Um, yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, those bottles, it's insane. You can get them for 150 when you can get them and if you can get them. And it's not like you can just go in and ask and buy it. It's one or twice a year they'll release it, and if you can be there that day, you can get it. And if not, you're SOL. Now some of them may be a little bit different. You might get 2 or 3 offerings a year or 4, but let's see here. It's let me zoom in on that. Yeah, the George T. Stagg, and I'm not. It doesn't say how many years old it is, but it's the antique collection. It'll have a date on front on the label on the front, like the Eagle Rare is a 17-year. The William LaRue Weller. It's probably a 13. It's hard to see. Um, Thomas Handy Sazerac. That's the rye offering, and then you got just the regular Sazerac. Both of those are the ryes. But some Taylor, yeah, he ate Taylor. Yeah, it's all very, very expensive, crazy expensive. So, if you can get one of those, that's something else. Let's see if it talks about them here at all. No, it just talks about some. Now this was the different years. This was 2025 must have been a really good year. Um, and then there's some that are like this, the fall release from 2022 and 2020, and there's different years and different prices. But check it out, man. Some of those get crazy expensive. E.H. Taylor was added in 2025. So it's 6 bottles after 2025. Before that was 5 bottles, I guess. There we go. George T. Stagg bourbon, William LaRue Weller bourbon, Thomas H. Handy Sazerac straight rye, Eagle Rare 17-year-old, Sazerac rye 18-year-old, and beginning in 2025, E.H. Taylor bottled and bond. But the Eagle Rare 17 and 13 both are really sought after bottles. The rye is probably some of the, I mean, to the rye drinkers out there, they'd say what I'm about to say is no, but I think the ryes are probably lesser sought after. But I guess if you're a real rye person, this is probably the holy grail of your rye collection. But yeah, it gets crazy. So I'm gonna try to sneak in there and get me a little antique collection bottle from time to time because I'm pretty close. I can drive over there. Yeah, I guess it's about shot time. Mark's back. Welcome back, Shadow. Yeah, now the Weller, if you can get from that antique or the Stag from that antique collection, buy it. Just buy it. Just you don't drink it, but if you can get the antique collection Buffalo Trace antique bottle, buy it and just put it on there. You could I guess make a living doing that, driving around different distilleries, getting their appropriated liquors and turning them over. Four Roses, and they make good stuff. Apple mash. Just start out with lower percentages this time. So maybe this time, just get, I don't know how much you got going, but just maybe a 10% and or a 5% fine grind. The finer you grind it, the more influence it'll have. but meaning you can use less, right? So I've never quite understood. Somebody says, "Oh, just don't grind it as fine, and it won't add as much flavor. And if you wanted to add it more flavor, just grind it fine." I'm like, well, why don't you just use less and grind it finer to add that flavor, and not and use less, right? Makes sense. I mean, logically, I'm not sure if it quite works out that way, but I've never done a lot of rye. Um, Not a big rye drinker. That's one thing back in the days. I never was a rye man, and I don't mind, 5 or 10%, but when it gets to real high rye blends and stuff, I'm not, no. You got some asshole rye going. Apple. Hey, asshole rye. Yeah, I bet that's real spicy. Yeah. Yeah, I think you could just, instead of using, 10% and not grinding it as finely, I think you probably do use 8%, grind it finely, and you get the same flavor, right? Save on 2 or 3%. But my thing is, but I just try with a little bit and just increase it, and say, well, I can get some notes of this rye in there. Maybe next time if I'll try a little bit more and keep adding a little bit more each time you do it, until you think, whoa, that's too much, and then but but most 5 to 10% is a pretty good number to start with. Yeah, handfuls. So you use the voice to text. I've never done that. I know a lot of people that do. At the end of it, they always have to say, what is at the end of it, every time they use that voice chat, what you got to tell them is, oh, end, or I don't remember. Been in the jug a bit much. What is it they say? Stop or something. Yeah, stop. That's it. Send it. Yeah. Stop. End. Send it. That's what at the end, the very end of it. Is that it? Yes. End. Send it. Send it. Send it. I get it. I'd get tired of saying that every time. Yeah. Clint's in that grinder. Yeah. Yeah. We were talking about it. Text. I think it Bucky's has it for like $8 a bag. So I've heard they kept it outside, so I don't know what the moisture content is and the quality, but I've heard they had it for $8 a bag, and if it sells pretty, I know during deer season it probably sells really quickly, so you probably get some pretty fresh. But eight a bag is good. I think Tractor Supply here is like 12. Let me see what they got going on. Man, I can't time my drink. Neither can Clint. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, $11 a bag. Whole corn. Crack corn is a little bit more expensive. I guess you got to pay them to crack it. I've not gotten too much cob in the crack corn. I got that producer pride from them. Producer pride's pretty good. But yeah, people ask, about the deer corn and stuff and the additives and no, stay away from all that pelleted corn and all the apple, pellets and stuff they put in. No, no, just get producer pride, whole kernel corn, and it's fine. Now I have learned from Roy and and Sean that they a lot of corn gets sprayed with propionic acid to keep it fresh. So, if that's a concern, you might, you can rinse the kernels before you grind them up. Just put them in water, rinse them good, clean them up good. And if you got the wet mill, you don't have to worry about it. Just throw it in there anyway, and it'll grind them up just fine. But I will say, if you do get one of the electric grinders, make sure you open it up all the way before you start it. Make sure that you're turning the dial the right way because it will allow you to tighten these things up to where you got metal on metal grinding, right? So that's how fine it'll let you get. It'll let you get so fine that metal hits the metal on your grinding wheels. So make sure maybe and mark it to where you don't over twist it and get to the point where you do go metal to metal, but just let it be known that they will let you go grinding wheel to grinding wheel in these things before they should make it stop turning right before it gets there. But I guess over time your wheels get ground down and you screw it in a little more and more to get that fine grind. But um, yeah, and I'm not gonna tell y'all how I found that out, right? Yeah, the hard way. Actually, we were talking about Texas, for $10 for 50 pounds. Can you buy dirt that cheap? I don't. I mean, Home Depot dirt is like 15 for a 50-pound bag. So I think corn's cheaper than dirt, literally now. I guess. Yeah, from the farmers, if you can find a farmer, you can get it for 5 or even less. You know, some of these farmers, hell, they'll let it go for $3 or $4, 50-pound bag, and if you can get a tote, it's 5 cents a pound. It's cheap as hell. Yeah. Yeah, man. The more you drink, the smarter you get, and the more runs you got under your belt. I mean, man, it's amazing. I teach people, and they get a few runs under their belt. It's like, yep, I don't need to know anything else. I'm good. I'm like, they're like a pro now, man. It's like, okay, there's more to it. But, all right. And the next thing you know, they're like, well, I had this issue. What do you think? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I thought you was a pro now. But yeah, it's funny. There's only beginners in the moonshine industry, right? There's beginners, and then there's professionals. There's no intermediate. It's like you're a beginner, and once you learn, you're a pro, right? That's the way it works. Yeah, best thing take some barrels in there, man. They'll fill up them barrels for next to nothing. And I mean, some of those, some of them big 55-gallon barrels, that'll hold like 500 pounds of corn. Let me Google that. I think it's like 500 or 600 pounds. I can't. I've looked it up before. I can't remember, but Uh, 350 to 400 pounds. Yep, that is a lot. 50, and it would depend on the moisture content too. Will have a big impact on it. I'm glad they made a note of that. But yeah, 330 to 400 pounds based on 6.01 pounds per gallon density. So I guess that's based off of moisture content. And the distilleries, if you bring anything over 16%, I think it is moisture content, they'll sample a small, they'll just dig into that truck. They'll dig right into the middle of it randomly anywhere. They'll pull out a handful and they'll run it through a test and sample just kernels. They'll pull kernels out of it and sample them on this densitometer. And if it's over 16%, they won't accept the truckload. Take it away. So they'll check maybe 10, 20 kernels randomly out of it from different places. And if it's more than 16%, nope, take it out of here. Next, and they're strict as hell about it. Yeah. What kind of farmer you going to the sheep farmers, huh? Mm. Uh-huh. Them sheep ingredients. Yeah. You're one of the few that'll admit it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they'll definitely check it out, man. They check for moisture and bugs too. Yep. But yeah, if that moisture is, I think it's 16% is what they go on. If it's a penny over that, nope, they don't want it molding up in their silos and in their grain mills, where they store it, man. They don't want that shit. 'Cause once it starts spreading, it'll spread that mold to all of it. They don't. They got a lot of money invested, so they definitely don't want to do that. Have you ever heard the stories of how they used to put uh, magnetic mines on dolphins and train them to swim and plant those mines under ships back in the World War II? They trained them. They would put this little World War One was it, and they would train them to put these little magnetic mines on the back of a dolphin. They'd train them to swim them underneath, and then it was on a little buckle, and they'd release right onto that ship, and then the dolphins would swim back, and they'd remote detonate that shit. Yeah, that's why I say when you get them if you get a bunch in the fall and put them in an airtight barrel and let it sit outside in that freezing weather, that'll kill every larvae in that corn off. Lie detector rats looking for mines out in fields. Yeah, cool. Nothing like watching a rat fly in the air in pieces, huh? We used to go to the dump, and every time that bulldozer would push the garbage off to the side, there'd be hundreds of rats scrambling. And we'd sit there, they're 22s picking them off. It was a lot of fun. They probably still are, I'm sure. Yeah, me too. It's getting pretty close to 11. It's about time. Good seeing you, Tex. Thanks for dinner tonight. Good seeing y'all. And nice meeting Michelle. We look forward to doing it again next time I'm buying. Oh, are they? Yeah, I was looking forward to seeing some rat guts flying through the air, man. I was gonna look up videos watching that shit. I'd sit and watch that all night. Oh, you can't shoot at the dump now like that? Figures, yeah. That is a lot of fun, man. We'd sit and drink a few beers, burn one, pick those rats off. Yeah, my grandfather and I did that. Well, he wasn't smoking, but we went to the dump. That's how I learned how to do it. Yeah, they take the fun out of everything. Yeah, just have his final shot is shot. Thanks again, Mike. For the honey shine. Good stuff. Yeah, I think that my nieces and talking about getting one for a pet. I'm like, huh? Yeah. Well, and daughter. It will be my niece one day, right? No, I mean my stepdaughter, right? Stepdaughter, yeah. Her daughter-in-law, yeah. Daughter-in-law, hell, I don't know. One of them things. Yeah, Ann's daughter's thinking about getting one. Her husband. Okay. Well, I ain't claiming him, so he's all right. Yeah, hope everybody had a good time tonight. I guess it's about that time. I guess we'll be back on Saturday. It's Tuesdays and Saturdays now. I keep saying Wednesdays, so it's hard for me to get that locked in, but Tuesdays and Saturdays. All right, to find out what is Moonshiners on every Tuesday night or Wednesday night. I'll have to talk to Jay and Amanda to find out. I was thinking it's on Wednesday, but I guess I could Google it. It's going to be on Wednesdays after this one. I guess today was the premiere, was Tuesday. And then after that, it's going to be Wednesday. So, yeah, from now on, you'll be able to watch the show, and we won't, our podcast won't interrupt with that. So that's a good thing we changed to Tuesday then. And so the one I traded with on Wednesday gave my Wednesday day. They'll have to compete with Moonshiners, right? Sorry. That's a good move. That'll be Tuesday only for the premiere, Scott. But from now on, it's going to be on Wednesday at 8. So I just found that out. but it'll be on Wednesday nights at 8. So that'll be good. So we won't have to compete with them, man. It's hard to compete with Amanda and the show. Thanks everybody, and thank you, Chris, for tuning in. Hey, we're all part of the show here. It's we got the chat up there on the screen too. So now everybody, and their comments get to be seen. So it's just not my ugly mug up here talking. So everybody gets to see the comments on screen, and it's all about you guys. It's all about the questions and answers and hanging out and chatting, and that's what I think makes it so good. And it not a bunch, 5 or 6 people up here I mean, I enjoy the shit show, don't get me wrong, it's a lot of fun. But a lot of times it's hard to follow, it's everybody up here talking at the same time, and it's really difficult to hear what's going on. And believe it or not, us hillbillies, we're used to all talking in groups like that, and we could be in a restaurant with that noise coming from everywhere, and be at a table with 5 different conversations going on, and I can tune it all out and hear any particular conversation I want to hear. I can look at you and hear another conversation. So we're pretty good at that. But I appreciate it. Bring them on in here. We'll teach them. We'll get them ready. Until now is a pretty damn good time to start. Hey, good seeing you, man. We got a lot of people in there lurking. It's good seeing you, brother. Yeah, tell them now's a good time to get started. Those football stills at 205 is a pretty good deal. It probably won't be that cheap again. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe a 4th of July sale or Memorial Day sale be that, and then Black Friday, probably 2 of the lowest prices of the year. So still available till the 14th mark. So tell them if they want to get the Vever football steels or the Vever grinders. They're on sale, and I think the grinders will be on sale probably until about the same time. It's hard for me to say. I thought it said, but that's talk about shipping. Get it that quickly. So they ship pretty quickly too. So it's something that's coming from China. They got them here. But the wet one for 175 looks pretty nice. It's a different motor and shroud. The $159 one, it looks pretty much like a lot of the others. It's the 3,000-watt one, but it looks a lot like all the other ones that are available, and that's still a good price. But for $25 more, well, let's see, 160 to 75, it's only like $15-16 more. You can get the wet and dry, and that looks like a little bit better unit to me for sure. And wet and dry, you'll be able to run your fruits through it and grind up everything, break everything down, and you can get trying to read here. Your rice or soybeans into a pulp. You can grind them into a pulp. Used to make soy milk, rice cakes, and other stuff. So yeah, it works. It works pretty well with the wet stuff too. So for $15-16 more, yeah, I would. That's definitely the way to go for sure. But anyhow, it's good seeing everybody. Good having you on here. Y'all have a great rest of your week, and we will see you guys and gals back here on Saturday at 8 Eastern. Until then, shine on, peace out, love y'all, and have a great week. We'll see you Saturday.